Those are Christmas lights back there, so don't think I'm just doing some sort of pretty vlog thing. That's just Christmas lights. Christmas is coming up. All right? I'm not trying to be pretty here. This is not like some sort of lookbook type channel or something, so just so you know. Train the muscles, not the joints. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about force and using the force in order to make the weights move. And that's actually not what I'm going to talk about at all. What I'm going to talk about is the commonality between tension and force and stretching and how it all kind of goes together in order to make a bodybuilding soup. And what I mean by this is some people debate on the internet, they're saying, hey, you have to go all the way down in a movement in order to get the maximum tension in a muscle. Now, partially this might be true for certain muscle groups, but maybe not the muscle group you want to hit. That's the thing. So say for instance, one person squats low. They will stretch the quadriceps more than maybe the next person, depending on their joint ratios and depending on how they're built. And then another person might stretch their hamstrings more. And then another person might stretch their glutes more. So it all depends on how these forces interact based on all the counterbalancing and all that kind of stuff that goes on when you're actually balancing yourself during a squat. So that's just one movement. Now, bench press, the same thing. One person will bench and they'll touch their chest and they'll stretch the crap out of their delts. And they still stretch their chest, yes. But their delts might get an exponential stretch in comparison to their chest. So this is what we're here to talk about. Why do some people get maximum amounts of muscle without actually going full range of motion? Because some of you guys are like, holy shit, Jason Gallant, natural bodybuilding Gallantian extraordinaire, has gotten results without super stretching, without going ass to the grass squats, without touching his elbows on the floor during bench press. How did this happen? Well, I have a theory on that. And my theory is that when you add tension to a muscle, it grows. Whenever you give tension to a muscle, and there are different ways to do this. One is by lifting maximal poundage, and another is through stretching the muscle. Now, if you could stretch the muscle and add maximal poundage, you're going to have a recipe for success. Now, the thing is that some people think stretching the muscle is full range of the joint, but some muscles get stretched more than others. So what I'm saying is every single exercise, you stretch the muscle you want to stretch, but not necessarily just stretch for the sake of stretching. So you don't turn your bench press activity into a yoga movement, right? You're actually doing the movement to make sure that you're actually stretching the chest and not stretching the delts. So that way the delts aren't giving out long before the chest does. So there you go. Okay, you kind of get the premise. The bottom line is you want to stretch the muscle you want to stretch. So adding tension to a muscle can happen through doing maximal poundages with shorter ranges of motion. Sometimes lifting heavier weight can give you more results. Hence the rack deadlift that a lot of guys are doing out there to build their traps up and build their back. Hence the partial squats to build the legs. I mean, you see a lot of guys that have huge legs that aren't doing ass to the grass. And then other guys that have huge legs that are doing ass to the grass. The difference is that are you working within the spectrum of what is the most efficient way of using range of motion for your physical body? And how you know whether you're using the most efficient range of motion or not is a lot of times whether you're getting joint pain. If you're getting an extreme amount of joint pain, chances are there's a good chance that you're not moving the way that your body naturally wants to move. And this can be because of injury history. This can be because there are certain flexibility constraints that you may have. Maybe you need to increase your flexibility. In some cases, this is the case. But most of the time, I find people are just trying to move in the way that just doesn't work for them. So force. Use the force, Luke. Use the force, Luke. That's how you grow, okay? So you work with the forces and you concentrate those forces on the muscle belly, not on the joint specifically. And that's where people make a big mistake in their training. And I've done this with a lot of clients over the years. I've taken people and all of a sudden start training them and saw how they're training and they're going all the way through range of motion, all this kind of stuff. And then I just perfected their range of motion so that they were keeping that tension on the muscle, and bang, instantaneously they were getting results. They're like, what the hell's going on? I can't believe it. It was like they just saw me walk on water. It was like they just saw me walk on water. And that's why when you guys ask me how old I am, I just say 4,000 or 5,000 years old. just because it makes sense. It makes sense because some of the bodybuilding tips I'm sharing are actually miraculous. They're just miraculous. That's all I can say. So anyway, the bottom line is that this is what I noticed with my brother when he was doing partial squats and his quads just blew up so much so that I remember some girls telling my ex-girlfriend at the time, his legs are too big, it's so gross, right? They're talking about my brother's legs. It was pretty funny. So, you know, he's wearing those shorts back in the 90s or whatever, when we were at the beach and stuff, and then these girls were talking about his legs, saying they were too big, they were just so sick. They were just totally grossed out by it, so it was pretty funny. So the fact is that range of motion isn't always more tension on the muscle group you want to hit. Sometimes range of motion is just one variable, one factor in a bunch of factors. So sometimes when you go extreme range of motion, you have to lighten the weight up so much that the tension might not necessarily be more on that muscle group you want to hit. Sometimes it's better to do less of a range of motion but use more weight in order to get more tension on that muscle. This is some pretty wild shit that I'm sharing with you right now. This stuff is it's like genius. 10 or 20 years from now, people are going to look back and like, Natural Gallant, Jason Gallant said this, and it is like, wow, how did he know this? It's going to be like the guy talking about the world not being flat anymore. They're going to be like, my God, this guy was a genius. Right now, of course, I'm getting burned at the stake and all this kind of stuff because of what I'm saying. But the fact is, I'm just noticing what happened with the results that I got over the years. And I'm going to make another video real quick here. I'm going to talk another video that's pretty profound, and it's about how lean you should be when you're training and how being bulked up isn't necessarily the best way to do it. But anyway, we'll talk about that in the next video, okay? A guy contacted me on Instagram, wanted me to answer the question, so I'm making this video for him. So shout out to him. So yeah, I hope this helps you understand that force on the muscle tissue is how you make it grow. It's not necessarily about just stretch alone, although stretch can be one way to get that force on a specific muscle group, but sometimes it's not, especially in the compound movement. Sometimes you're stretching something else altogether instead of the muscle group you want to hit. There you go. I'm out of here. Thanks a lot to the Patreon supporters. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalbodybuilding.com and take care for now. I'm going to use the force so that way you share my shit. Watch. You share my stuff. You share my stuff. You share my videos on Facebook.